Hey, what's up, Moto Buddies? Mike here from Taco Moto Co. We're going to do a little taco talk on a question that we've been asked a couple of times recently, and it's just our thoughts and opinions on the general goings-on with what's happening with KTM right now. And the question is KTM going under? Well, they're obviously in financial insolvency. They're having incredible difficulties through maybe some mismanagement practices and some of the broader economic issues that are going on, facing a lot of the manufacturers, especially automotive, in the automotive world. You see the news all the time. So that is absolutely affecting KTM. So are they going out of business? That means to say, are they going to disappear? So do they have financial problems that may lead to some insolvency and the need for outside investors? Yes. Will they disappear? Absolutely not. No. KTM is really in one of those situations where they're too big to fail. Think of all the American automotive companies. All American automotive manufacturers, except for Ford and Tesla, have declared bankruptcy, gone out of business, if you want to use that phrase. So have they closed? No. Will KTM go away? Absolutely not. They are too big to fail. There's too many companies that will come in and will invest. The Austrian government will not allow that to happen. So they're not going to go away. Just because they're not going to go away doesn't mean it won't be a different company and a different structure on the other side. So are all the brands going to remain intact? Well, so the KTM group or the PR Mobility group in terms of motorsports, power sports, they have Gas, Husqvarna, the KTM brand obviously, and then they've owned a stake in MV Agusta, which is being sold, and then they own a lot of they own the components that go into the assembly. So like they own Pankel, which makes gears, and they own some metal foundry companies. So on the other side of this, will they own as much as they do now? Will they have those stakes and controlling interest? Very likely no. MV Agusta is the first thing that will go away. Will Husqvarna and Gas disappear from their ownership? It's anybody's guess, but it's my personal opinion that no, they won't. They will retain those three brands above all else. Will the company morph into something a little different in terms of ownership? You know, as a general, the riders, we don't know or care who owns it. All we care about is, can we get a particular bike? Can we get the parts that we need? And will the parts stream continue on? Yes, it will. Will any of this affect Tacomoto? Generally, no. We might see some parts availability issues with longer lead times. There's always been long lead times. Even when KTM was in healthy financial, or at least publicly we believed that they were financially sound, you know, you've had certain parts that have been hard to get to. There have been back order lead times, normal during any circumstance or any time in the last, say, 5 years. Will that increase so that it's harder to get certain parts? I personally don't think so. I don't think it'll be any harder to get certain OEM parts now than it was before. Time will tell. Will it affect any aftermarket companies? No, it won't. And the reasons are simple. The financial health of KTM has no bearing whatsoever on the financial health of any of the aftermarket suppliers. They're completely different companies in different businesses in different parts of the world. And so there's no worry that any of those companies are going to be affected. Now, will they change outputs? Meaning, will certain companies take an opinion that the sales numbers, the general broader economic forces look like, or news look like, there could be a recession coming and a downturn in the broader economy. And so that might mean fewer units sold, fewer motorcycles per year sold, and that might mean their projections say, well, we're going to have to make fewer seats and handlebars and wheel sets or whatever, because there's just going to be fewer numbers of bikes sold. So there may be some product impacts in that way, but it's 100% unlikely that no aftermarket company will be affected or go out of business. It's just not going to happen. And so just to finish that thought, will this affect Tacomoto directly? No, I don't anticipate it. Another question we get is, has this and will this affect the value of my bike? The resale value of the bike I own now? Yes, absolutely. If you've been following, even after COVID. So resale values, new equipment and resale equipment peaked during the COVID years and has been on a steady decline ever since. And now it's at its bottom. Is it at the final bottom? Who knows? But it is definitely trending downward. And so if you were a seller During COVID, it was a seller's market. The sellers were on the upside. It was a disadvantage to the buyer because units were more expensive, equipment was more expensive, everything was costlier. Now it's inverted, and so the bias is towards the buyer. Prices are low, manufacturers are slashing prices, KTM has dropped prices, and incentivized dealers sometimes up to 20 and 30% to clear the floor, to sell equipment. It's rumored that KTM has something like 200,000 machines sitting in warehouses that have been overproduced. So all of that is putting downward pressure on new bike values as well as existing bike values. So if you're trying to sell a used bike now, you're bumming because prices are super low. So the last question we'll talk about is now a good time to buy a bike? Yes. So dovetailing off what we just said, this is absolutely the best time if you're shopping to buy power sports equipment, a KTM branded device, motorcycle. Yeah, now is the time because you can take advantage of those big dealer incentives. You can take advantage of the fact that the resale market is suppressed. This would be really the time, especially if you were cash positive, if you were liquid and you could go and pay cash and buy a bike outright, like this is the best time in years in anyone's recent memory to do that. Probably since, say, the recession maybe of 2007, 2008. If you're in a good strength position financially, use this market to your advantage and go buy a bike or two. Like we have customers who are buying 2. I just got an email from a guy the other day who bought 3 bikes. So if you're in a position where you're bike shopping and you're on the fence and you're trying to decide whether you should buy a KTM product because of the long-term stability of the company, it's our opinion that no, it will not be affected. The long-term service life of your KTM product is unaffected by any of this. This is just sort of a blip. I don't want to underplay what's happening, but this is not going to impact the fact that you'll, in a year or 2 or 3, you'll be able to get aftermarket parts and OEM parts. Your bike will come back. Eventually the economy will turn, the market will rebound. You will see that prices at some point will swing the other way. Economies and all of these things, they're just roller coasters. It goes to the side of the producer at some periods and then it goes to the side of the consumer at some periods. And so right now we're in a consumer-friendly market is basically what this means. So that's our thoughts on a couple of these key questions. We'll do another one of these videos here coming up shortly where we'll talk a little bit more about the Pierre group and some of the thoughts that we have and some of the things that we've heard. We don't have a lot of deep level insider information, but we've had conversations with people who are in the know, and so we have a couple of things to say about a little bit of that. And that'll be in a video coming up here fairly soon. So thanks for watching. Go out, get some adventure.